Yeah, like, you were pretty bummed out. I was gonna ask you if you wanted me to take my top off, if that would cheer you up.
I mean, I do like some titties. I'm not gonna lie.
We are never gonna be monetized on YouTube. I have resigned to this fact.
No, you don't. Okay, look. You don't really want to be monetized on YouTube through YouTube. Like, that's the chump scam. You don't want to chase AdSense. The trick is to have ancillary products that your YouTube channel brings people in to see. So that way you don't annoy them with ads. Because who wants
like
that?
Sultreon. Like, okay.
Right, our Sultreon
I've been laughing
account,
about that for a full week now, because just like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, you can donate your soul to our Sultreon account. We're not responsible to what happens afterwards. It might be nothing, there might not be souls, or it might be a little more than that. It'll just be a surprise.
I mean, there was that cloaked man that kept saying...
We don't talk about that time we went down to the crossroads, saw Bob, like, it was all good.
I never said it was a crossroads, how did you know?
I mean, where else do you set up a Sultreon account? Like...
Okay, so that was a terrible introduction. Hello,
no,
everyone.
that's a fantastic introduction. Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
It sounds like we just recorded this one out immediately after the last one. Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I actually think that's good. There's a good banter going back and forth. And, again, support us on Sultreon. What's the worst that could happen?
Anyway, thank you for listening in. Thank you for tuning into us every week. I don't know why you're still doing that. Or maybe I do. I don't know. I don't know anything. But welcome, listeners, to Dicey Logic's podcast on the Dicey Logic channel. A channel for adventurers who may not always use their heads.
And if you don't use your head very well, consider supporting us on Sultreon.
Oh my god.
Listen, it's never going away.
It isn't. It's going to be a thing from now on forever. Oh my god.
Yeah, because souls are eternal. And, like, sooner or later, like, there's got to be some sort of... Well, you kept joking about people stealing theirs. There's got to be some bad karma in that somewhere. Oh, that's what I'll blame it if my business thing doesn't go through. Yeah, all right. I've got a good excuse lined up. All right. So, tonight... We are talking about naming NPCs.
Naming NPCs. But first, we got to do some updates.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So the script that I've been talking about for the past 2 episodes, I have to do some editing on that. I haven't forsaken animation entirely yet, but it's not going to happen for this. It's going to be a new thing that we start up. Look for that maybe Tuesday-ish. Tuesday or Wednesday, after this goes up.
I'm looking forward to that.
So yeah, and with that, we are going to get back into the interesting NPCs dialogue that we've had going. And in this one, we are actually going to be discussing naming your NPCs and some other things. The first thing we're going to go over, though, naming NPCs. Now, my strategy for naming NPCs starts before the campaign.
Okay.
I get the important ones named first, and then from there, I will name other NPCs as we go. So, important NPCs in this current campaign, Percy is Bob Tom Tom. He was actually an important NPC in my eyes.
The most important NPC.
Let's see, there was Donius, Detrianus, a lot of Roman-sounding names, honestly. I feel like they give a certain air of sophistication.
Or at least pretentiousness, and that works.
No, that is definitely what I was going for with that.
Overblown.
Yeah.
Like a Sun King might be. He's not actually the Sun King.
He's the magistrate of the district.
Yeah, he's the Sun King. As you will know sooner or later. Maybe. But
yeah.
Yes.
And then I also came up with names for a few other NPCs that you never even met. So, definitely have a few extra names for important NPCs if your characters ever run into them.
Makes sense.
Now, during a campaign, though, obviously there's going to be plenty of NPCs that show up. My strategy at the start was wing it. This ended up with 3 different NPCs that you all, my players all, interact with on a regular basis, all named in some variation of Dave.
I'm taking credit for that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I created a Dave NPC in the game I ran before this, who was based on a manager at work. Very loosely based on, it turns out. But I feel like Dave is propagated into every campaign we're in.
So we had Dave that worked for Madris, who was also named ahead of time. We have Dave that worked for Madris. We have Dave that... Actually, you know what? That NPC never actually
Interactive?
That NPC you never actually interacted with, because that was just, oh, well, Dave did it. That was what that was. And then David, who is the owner of the Paladin's Pauldron and Armor Shop.
Right. So, I like those as suggestions. I take a fairly different strategy overall, and I like overbuilding NPCs for my systems. The way I've come to GM games is like a weird hybrid of Shadowrun and Apocalypse World.
I really like both of those.
They're a lot of fun, and like I didn't realize that I just sort of merged them until I ran Shadowrun last, and I started by like, well, let's like what's life in the life of your characters like, and I'm like, wait a minute. Something suggested this to me, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing Apocalypse World, but in Shadowrun. Well, I guess I should make their lives more interesting now. And so I did, and then, like, stuff happened.
Going back to, creating the names specifically, in the ongoing campaign, it's not just, oh, here's a random name. Like I was saying, I ended up with 3 NPCs named Dave. What I started doing was picking a random letter, and then coming up with a name based on that letter during the campaign.
Okay.
And then noting it, or having a player note it, because that NPC may never come up again, or they may come back as like a contact or something.
Yeah, and actually that's what I wanted to bring up. The word contact specifically.
Oh, yeah.
So for those of you who don't know Shadowrun, one of the mechanics in it that I think is, like, you should just steal this for all of your games, because it makes things more social, is contacts. So these are people who know you, who have some opinion, like you have some mutual relationship. And just thinking about NPCs in terms of their relationship with their players makes them more real than, like, D&D standard. Like, most D&D NPCs are sort of there to serve some obvious purpose. They're there to be the shopkeeper or bartender. And, like, I don't know if you've read a lot of modules for D&D and Pathfinder, but they are not really good at making their NPCs seem like they have things to do other than the plot. It's not good.
It's like a video game NPC situation. Like, here's the shopkeeper, he is always at his stall, whatever time of day. Which brings us... Which
is weird.
Yeah.
Because, like, doesn't it make more sense if you're doing a dramatic thing that is gaming? Like, well... why would that shopkeeper be there? Doesn't he have kids? Does he want to spend time with his family? Doesn't he have, like, aspirations that somehow conflict with the party being able to re-up on arrows whenever they want to?
Yeah, and actually, this kind of magic... Margaret, remember? Miss Margaret's magical...
mannequins?
Yeah, Miss Margaret's marvelous magical mannequins. Good God, why did I just love the alliteration. But anyway... Miss Margaret, one of our players tried to speak with Miss Margaret. Her name was M, and so I came up with a name M. It was going to be Mary at first, but then I was like, no, I need something a little more like finishing school sounding. So Margaret, and these are enchanted mannequins that are basically like the customer service AI of today, but better. And
Robot Siri.
Oh yeah, and. Hi, how can I help you today? For a small fee, we can upgrade your service. Like, I love these mannequins. They are the best. But, so, Demi tried to get in contact with the maker of these mannequins. And the maker of the mannequins, Miss Margaret...
hates people. Loathes people.
Well, no, she's afraid of people.
Okay, that's fair.
So when Demi tried to talk to her, when Demi went into the shop, it was being run by a prototype mannequin. My name is Mary. How can I help you today? Insert customer name. Like, that was how it went. And so Demi's just like, I need to speak with Miss Margaret, because Demi had had enough of these mannequins.
Demi's been practically haunted by these mannequins in this campaign.
No other player has even seen them yet. And so Demi wanted to speak with the manager of this business, and like, she came into the shop, was surprised that there was a living person in the shop, and just sort of ran into her back room. She had other things to do, which was not deal with this.
Yup, that's the way to do it. So I'm currently in the development stage of a campaign that is going to be completely ridiculous. Like, this is one of the most ambitious games I've ever tried to run, and it's...
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But it's a very high level Pathfinder game, which means all sorts of dumb number crunching. And so, like, I was in the middle of character building last night. I'm like, maybe I should think about the social aspect of this, rather than like what the big numbers of the players are going to have to get bigger numbers to fight is. Because the game is set at more or less 17th level, with the players actually being more powerful than the setting, than most of the setting like can tolerate. Like, it's ridiculous how powerful you are in Golaron.
Right.
Like, the prime material plane just isn't interesting. Like, you're not really going to be able to level up any there, which is how I'm going to counterbalance the fact that you can go in and take whatever you want with little in the way of stopping you.
My character can't. There's reasons for this.
Well, we don't want to spoil it.
Oh, no, of course not.
Because it's an evil campaign. The players are not necessarily going to be cooperating. And I love running these games, and I think we've got a group that really will like dig into that and undercut each other while still being able to remain friends on the outside even after all of the betrayals, which I'm really looking forward to run.
And actually, that next time I do want to talk about, I know this should be saved for the end here, but whatever. Next time I do want to talk about creating a character that is an asshole without being an asshole yourself.
Right.
Because that is very important for this kind of campaign.
Yeah. That is true.
And I have been in campaigns as a player where sometimes people are just assholes. And I have a character currently running, Avayas. I love Avayas. She can be a bit of an asshole in her compulsiveness. And that is how her character acts. But anyway, we're going to get into that a bit. Yeah, we're going to get into that next time. But
we'll just clip this on at the end.
I feel like that would be way out of...
Alright.
Well, I like keeping these to be a bit stream of thought.
Alright, that works for me. I'm just throwing ideas out there. Like a stream of thought. Obvious wink.
Obvious wink.
Yeah, sorry. There's no video. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, so names of NPCs... And I'm going back to the Shadowrun, because it's really what I've GM'd the most.
Yeah, and actually I feel like names in Shadowrun are actually a lot more interesting than most of the fantasy ones, because in the fantasy ones you can look it up in the book, or you can just be like, my name is Wolf, and I am the wolf person. And it's just like, there's not a lot of, like, it's kind of almost expected that it's going to be high fantasy. But Shadowrun is a mix of fantasy and technology, so you can end up with some really interesting NPC names.
And because it's cyberpunk, there's an expectation it's going to be, like, weirdly over-the-top multicultural. Like, you can run into people who are, like, super Swedish and super South Asian. Like, those two people just might be running street stalls next to each other and speaking in vastly conflicting languages and accents. And that's just something you have to deal with. That's what the Metroplex is like, y'all. Which makes it a little bit more fun, because you can bring in lots of different cultures into your melting pot to make it less like Tolkien. Like, I love Tolkien. Like, that guy's world building was great. But, like, I don't think his naming conventions have necessarily been good for the last 70 years.
Yeah, and I mean, well, there's something to it if you want to go with classical high fantasy names. Like, there are name generators that you can have on your phone as you're doing it, and just be like, oh, let me check my stats for this NPC. Generate name. Like, that was actually something I was doing for a while, was I had a fancy name generator. Nice. I didn't hide this. You remember.
Yep.
I would be like, okay, this is an elf. I need an elf name. No, I don't like that one. I don't like that. Oh, I like that one. We'll go with that one. But I don't like the last name. I'm going to...
Well, let me throw out a more concrete suggestion. What my Shadowrun GM, Denny... And I've played in lots of different Shadowrun games, but like Denny will be my Shadowrun GM pretty much until the end of time, because he's my favorite of them. That's the bottom line, and I don't think that's ever going to change, especially not after all the ridiculous crap I pulled in his games. But what he did that I thought was really neat, and I have since stolen, is he created a big sheet of everybody's contacts with pictures that he stole from the internet, which gave them a little bit more depth than just a description. And that actually made it a lot easier to sort of keep track of whose contacts were there. And especially in Shadowrun, like, I was playing a face character in his... Like, I had a sheet called Vicar's List. It's a Google Doc that ended up about 30 pages of all of the weird double deals, summaries of sessions, like, basically all of this character's notes for running his life.
You will not find that in the doobly-doo down below, because we might use some of those notes to create little stories that we're gonna put on the channel. So to avoid spoilers, that won't be in the description. Sorry, I apologize. But anyway, yeah. So you had this list.
Yeah, and like the original plan of it would be like his list of people to murder. Like that was his like revenge list, and he eventually crossed all those people off and found some new people and crossed them. Then he fled the jurisdiction. But, like, by the time he fled the jurisdiction, like, the list had really expanded to being me planning out the character as far as I could and, like, managing all the weird cons he was running at once. It was great, and that came directly out of the list that Danny had made of our contacts. Because, like, oh, this is a thing. And, like, I remember those contacts. Like, one of them was horrifically murdered at one point. And, like, he wasn't one of my character's contacts, but, like, I met him in the game a couple times, and he's a bookie, and my character had a gambling habit. I wouldn't say problem, I'd say solution. But, like, he was horrifically murdered, and, like, that had impact because that guy had impacted our story, and him being killed to send a message to us, I mean, it worked. We got the message.
Yeah, I haven't killed any of you guys' contacts yet. What was that little gnome's name again?
Oh, we're not gonna kill off the gnome tinkerer chick.
Not the gnome. You're right. I'm sorry. The half.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Her name
Beatrice.
was yes, Beatrice. The halfling. Yes.
Great.
I'm not gonna necessarily kill her off yet, but like Seymour is very invested in this NPC. So
you're gonna fridge my girlfriend in this game?
Maybe. I mean, I have to play her. So
yeah.
Also remember, as the GM, playing all of the NPCs is your responsibility. Okay? So coming up with their names is important, especially since you want your name to reflect the personality, if at all possible.
It's true. I think there's a thing that we need to touch on here, and that is be careful of being J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is extremely fond of very meaningful names.
I don't like J.K. Rowling anymore.
Yeah, I haven't ever liked her, but she is a very popular author, and her naming convention is kind of leaked around. Like, she has a werewolf character basically named Werewolf McWerewolf.
Oh yeah, Remus Lupin. It literally means werewolf McWerewolf.
Like, wow, the guy named for dogs twice is a werewolf. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want to be careful about that because otherwise you'll give away the game too quickly.
Or what you do is you have people with apparently meaningful names that have nothing to do with what their name is.
Oh.
Like if Remus Lupin was a vampire, like...
Oh, you mean like Canis in our game?
Yeah.
Canis, who was originally called Camus, C-A-M-U-S.
But my hearing's really bad, and I heard an N instead.
So his name just sort of became Canis, and it's just like, yeah.
Oh my god. I have an NPC name story. This is
Perfect,
not advice.
Not all of this has to be.
Yeah, like this is just wonderful, except for the GM in this case. So the person who introduced me to Sheila, he was running a game we were all in, and it was like a sequel to a campaign he had run for people in the past, and like there's a lot of meta plot that isn't very important. But the point is that there was a cult, and they were going to bring back the big monster that was going to end the world, and like somebody, and there to this day, those of us who were in the game argue which of us did it. I think it was Dave. Because Dave does this all the damn time.
It was Dave.
And his name is Dave.
That
And Dave,
ties
if
in
you're
really
listening
well.
to this, I still hate you for the Magic Forest thing. We'll get into that at some point, probably.
You should introduce him to the channel.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I'm like, hey, Dave!
Right before this video goes up. Sorry,
yeah.
go on.
Yeah, he's good people. So I think it was him because he has a tendency of doing it. But, like, we were learning some stuff about the cult, and somebody... Again, I believe it to be Dave. Sorry, Cousin Sam. I think you're wrong about that. He says, oh, so it's a cupcake cult. And I was like, yeah, magic monster, here to destroy the world. Yeah, we're just going to call him Cupcake, because that takes all his power away.
What?
And, like, this was his in-character justification. We're like, yeah, oh, big scary monster. Like, let's just call him Cupcake. We won't be able to take him seriously. It'll piss off his followers. Entirely in character. Like, it made perfect sense. And so we did, and at some point, like, he drew up a little angry cupcake monster. And I hope he still has that drawing, because it was so good. But, like, I don't remember what that thing's original name was. Neither does Dave. Neither does Sam. Supposedly neither does Mark. I think he's lying about that, though. Mark, if you hear this, don't lie to me anymore. We all know you remember what the monster's name was before it got cupcaked. But it did get cupcaked, and I assume it's been, like, 7 years now.
I guess this takes us to the opposite end of the too meaningful names. The names that are not meaningful enough.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, this was a PC problem, not a...
Yeah, this was... I'm just going to bring up the Magic Forest thing here. So, like, I was running a game, and, like, I put, like, weeks into designing this weird Magic Forest. See, I can't even describe it any other way. And so, Dave's character, who was a rogue fighter, saw some weird thing happen and rather than reacting with any kind of interest, we're like, oh, shrug, Magic Forest. And now all I can do is think of it like, well, generic Magic Forest, doing generic thing, and like all of that work was wasted because his character was like maybe a little too pragmatic to get invested in the wonders and terrors
come
around
on.
him.
You have people that can literally throw fireballs and scorch the earth.
It's true.
It's
but I had
not
all sorts of weird, cool stuff going on there, and he just blew it all off. And like it was personally devastating to me at the time. But in retrospect, hilarious.
Yeah, but like, yeah, again.
So be aware if you've got a player who can do that. Like, maybe don't get too attached to the impact of what you're doing.
Yeah, but anyway, back to the names. Those are kind of like the opposite ends of the spectrum you want to avoid. Names that are too meaningful and names that are not meaningful enough.
Yeah.
When I pitch ideas to my players for, hey, you know, I have an idea for a campaign where all of you are monsters that used to work for Lord Yug Dob. Like, that's literally bad guy backwards. Like, that's not going to be the actual name. But, like, you know, that kind of falls under the absolutely ridiculous category.
That's
Although
true.
you could probably get away with that for a few sessions.
It's true. I did not actually look at that closely enough to realize it was bad guy backwards. I'm a little embarrassed now. And on the same line, I've been referring to a thing in the game I'm developing as the MacGuffin Gate.
Oh, yeah.
Which, that's not going to be its name, but, like, right now it's the MacGuffin.
Yeah, so, these ridiculous names are great for planning out, but you do want to change them before your players get to them.
Yep.
Maybe, change the name of the gate to the Guffin.
No.
Or...
I already know what its actual name is going to be, but, like...
Probably something with Ethereum or...
No, it actually isn't going to have a name.
Oh.
It's not some... They're like the whole point of the thing is that almost nobody knows it's there.
I am so tempted to play a bard now just so that I can be like, I'm just going to call it the MacGuffin Gate and you can't stop me. Because a bard would do that.
That's true. Just remember, there are reasons why your character may not want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, very specific reasons that I will not mention because they might be overheard by people who cannot be trusted, i.e. our friends, the other players.
Yeah, and I don't want to reveal too much about my character yet. I'm thinking when we do get to your campaign, we'll do a rehash of the recording. Because, like, we did record all of this current campaign, but I kind of feel like that was a bit of a test recording, in all honesty, because it was the first time, my first attempt at it.
Yeah,
so,
agreed.
Yeah, so, we might release that raw audio, but it's rough. It is very rough.
That's fair. And we also need to soundproof this place a bit, put up a little...
Yeah, because, like, us, anyway, this is all technical stuff that I guess...
Yeah, it's stuff that doesn't really concern you. It's just that we want to make better audio.
And we also appreciate that you've sat through all of this so far.
That's true. Those of you who are listening right now, you are our favorite listener.
Definitely. And, I'll just sort of put my number on the screen. Give me a call sometime if you're not busy. Number will not be on screen, actually.
I think you need to put that on the screen.
Number will not be on screen.
Actually, like, it needs to be that whole phrase. It's a good phrase.
There was one major character in one of my campaigns once that had a very meaningful name, but that very meaningful name was also completely ridiculous. It was a goddess character that was literally me in the game. It was a self-insert because I was feeling very meta. This was before Steven joined the group. And, like, everybody loved it because we had a group that, that joke would work well with. And, like, it progressed the plot. It wasn't the best campaign ever, but, like, I was still getting my footing. And I'm still learning all the time. I mentioned before. But, like, literally, it was my goddess character. And in our last game session, she showed up just as a sort of wink and a nod.
That's true. Actually, you'll appreciate how I'm going to riff on that in my game.
Oh,
I'm not showing up.
Oh no, you're going to use my character?
No.
No?
Probably not. I might, but I don't think so. I'm going to riff on the idea.
Oh, on the idea. Okay.
Because, like, that'd be weird.
Yeah, that would be.
I wouldn't do that. Oh, that's another thing. If you're going to, like, make thinly veiled references to people you know, maybe be careful about doing that.
I mean, to be honest, we straight up use Dave in our game. So...
But which one?
Yeah, that's fair.
To be fair, it was the Dave who I worked with who, like, I told him about the campaign, like, oh, that sounds awesome, and gave me, like, homework. He told me to get the DVD for the... No, he didn't tell me to get it. He let me borrow his copy of the movie Blood of Heroes, which is an amazing film you should all go watch. It's Rutger Hauer from 1988, basically playing the Mad Max equivalent of football.
Yeah, and that's another thing is you can steal names from media that you've watched.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Just all of the names. But anyway, it looks like we were actually out of time a little bit.
Yep.
Give or take. So I guess we're just gonna call it here because everything usually ends up a little shorter when we edit it down. But anyway, So yeah, we're gonna call it here. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you for putting up with us getting off topic a little bit this time.
I mean,
and
it's fun. It's a conversation. They'll enjoy it. You enjoyed it. Anyway, you're welcome.
We're gonna talk about the difference between asshole characters and asshole players.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because that's really important.
Yeah.
And as an asshole, like, I try to walk that line.
And that will actually be our starting video of interesting PC characters, I feel.
Yeah.
Because, there is some very important things. Also, interesting news, I am planning on going to Steel City Con. So if you're in Pittsburgh, we don't know if Steven's going yet, but I am. So if you're in Pittsburgh for Steel City Con, you'll see me walking around with a bunch of buttons. Show up, I'll give you one. Like, I'm going to be handing out buttons. At least that's the plan. At this point, I can't guarantee that. So, good luck finding me. Especially since you've never actually seen what I look like. It'll be pretty easy to find it. I'm probably going to have buttons with with the Dicey Logic logo on it.
Excellent.
I drew that.
Anyway, we want to thank you all. Like, share, subscribe, and submit your soul to our Soultreon.
Also the bell. Don't forget the bell.
What?
The bell.
The bell.
No,
you know what? I don't mind if you miss some. Like, I'll give you permission to do what you were going to do. Anyway.
Well, when you put it like that, it sounds terrible.
I mean, I can make anything sound terrible. Like, that's just, like, my job?
No, your job is to make things sound good.
Yeah, but you do that in part by making the alternatives sound bad. Anyway, you should tune in next time because we're better than everybody else.
Thank you and good night, everyone. Oh my god. You can't just go insulting others.
I mean, I don't know. If anybody's insulted by that, like, I'll meet them out back in the fight. Like, what are they gonna do?